Welcome, everybody, to the inaugural show of the Fantasy Football Dynasty. I'm one of your hosts, Jason Allen, and we have Cody Wilson on the other end here. Because of everything going on with the virus, we are doing our first show through Zoom. Cody, say what's up to everybody.
What's going on, guys? Cody Wilson here.
All right, so one of the few things here, we named the show Fantasy Football Dynasty because me and Cody are both in the same fantasy football league. And I was the original winner, but that was before Cody was in the league. And then last year, I reclaimed the title and got another trophy for the case. But at the discretion of Cody is a two-time fantasy football league champion in our league, and he went like back-to-back. So I didn't get to accomplish that. I got two, but mine were maybe 3 years apart, where Cody went back-to-back. So we feel like as being the shareholders of the most championships in this league, it was only fitting and only right that we do a show giving some of our advice.
I think really more than anything, it's going to be those people that are looking for the year-round kind of stuff, not just during the league or during the season, anything like that. We're going to be looking to give advice as far as the draft goes, which we'll get into a little later tonight. We'll be looking for off-season moves, even down to what offensive coordinator change can really look to change in a team. Like to delve down into those kind of things, but definitely something I'm very much looking forward to kind of getting into.
All right. I'm noticing, because typically I haven't seen you in a while. I know usually your beard is sharpened and trimmed up. Looks like you got the quarantine beard pumping here, man. What's going on here, man?
Man, haven't left the house about a week.
So, one, if people haven't noticed, Cody is let me get this right, Los Angeles Chargers fan.
Los Angeles Chargers.
Because I don't want to mess that up because I keep calling them a San Diego Chargers. So me and Cody have even more history because I'm a 49er fan, if people don't know. And the last time the Chargers were in the Super Bowl, they played
the 49ers.
Exactly. Steve Young throwing for, I think, six touchdowns in that game. But I guess him winning 2 times in our league kind of makes me can't say much to him about anything. So, but like you said, we are going to talk about a lot of fantasy football moves during the season, off season, coaches, coordinators, everything, especially right now with the possibility that football may not start on time. We're going to look at a lot of things in the off season that had a lot of moves that were made in the off season. So the biggest thing coming around the corner right now, I would say, is the draft. I mean, you agree with that, Cody?
Completely agree. Free agency, the big kind of wave is behind us, and got the draft coming up this Thursday, and I could not be more excited about it.
Absolutely. So we decided to do a little bit of fantasy matchmaking and for the fun of it. So I want to keep this in mind with everybody. We're not saying these players are going to these teams. We're saying that we think if these players went to these teams, they will have a better fantasy impact or a really good fantasy impact from day one. So keep that in mind because everybody's like, oh, you picked such to go to here? He ain't never going to drop that far. We understand. We get it. Some people will be looking for defensive linemen, and we may give them a running back. Does that mean that's who they're going to draft? It just means that we think if they went to that team, they can have an immediate day one fantasy impact. So it's kind of like I said, it's the wish list. It's your fantasy wish list. You're just going through and like the grocery store with your mask on, and your gloves, and you're sanitizing your pocket, and you're like, you know what? I like J.K. Dobbins. I'm going to take him and put him on this team. And you just put it in your cart and go on. So that's what we're going to go ahead. So we're going to start with quarterbacks. So I'm going to let Cody start it off with the quarterbacks. What's the first quarterback you want to talk about, and where do you have him landing and why?
And this one, not too much of a stretch, I don't feel like. I got Justin Herbert. They're going 5 to the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins could really use a long-term franchise quarterback. I think Herbert very much fits that bill. Herbert, in my mind, is definitely an upgrade to old Fitzmagic, and putting the weapons around him. They've got 2 other first-round picks that they can really kind of build around. With Herbert, I just think that he's got that strong pocket presence, that he can also get outside of the pocket and extend the plays with his legs as well. And call me crazy, I think Herbert could be the top quarterback in this draft class.
Ooh, okay. So going with Herbert, I actually have Justin Herbert going to the Panthers. I think the Panthers have the number 7 pick, so he would have to fall a little bit. The reason why I have him there, what I put in my notes is this could be Cam Newton light. And when I say light, I mean better accuracy, not as good on the ground game, but he still can run. Big, strong quarterback as well. But also less drama, less metro dressing. Uh, also, I look at him that he could start day one, and right, he's like, well, they got Bridgewater. Yes, but Bridgewater was a backup, and he understands that. And also, if Herbert would have come in and win that job in camp, I think he could start in day one. And let's not forget, last year they did start with Kyle Allen, and McCaffrey was still fantasy viable, and DJ Moore was still fantasy viable. So I think you put in Justin Herbert, makes him fantasy viable because his legs and ability that he has a lot of talent around him. I mean, it's easy to throw a screen pass to McCaffrey to go 80. And you got points right there. So I
can stand behind that line and throw a screen pass to McCaffrey and he'd go 80.
You never know. From what they pay McCaffrey, that better happen every time he catches a screen pass.
That's true. That's true. That new contract.
Absolutely. So I have him going there. I can't front on. I like your chart. I mean, I like your pick for where Herbert's going. I can't really front on you on that one. So let's go on to the next one. I wanted to talk about Tua Tagovailoa. I think he's the best quarterback in the draft. So I personally think that he should go to the Bengals. And the reason why I say that is because we know for sure he can start immediately. 2, if Zach Taylor is supposed to be this, descended or pull off from Sean McVay has made Jared Goff look like an all-pro. And I don't think Jared Goff is that good. So if Zach Taylor can make anything, Tua look good with that kind of talent that Tua already has, I think Zach Taylor, if he is the truth, could bring that out of him. They have A.J. Green back again this year. They still have John Ross very fast. They still have Tyler Boyd. So I think if Tua would go number 1 overall, because I do think he's the best quarterback, to the Bengals, I think he could start today and just put up baller numbers.
I like it. You don't like Burrow at number 1?
I'm not a Burrow guy, and I'm going to tell you why. The biggest reason, to sum it up quickly, small hands in a division that's cold and a lot of weather issues bothers me.
Yep. Playing down.
Everybody's like, oh, well, Mahomes has small hands. Yeah, Mahomes is playing in Kansas City. 2 different type of fields there. And Mahomes has a fucking cannon on him. So.
Oh, yeah, he surely does. Man, that man can sling it, and I know firsthand. For Tua, I actually like him going to the Patriots at 23. I do not think that Hoyer or Stidham are going to be the long-term option there.
Right.
Tua's reports are saying he's sliding down draft boards a little bit. He's failed a couple of physicals. He's still showing some injury concern. And you know how Belichick loves his projects.
Oh, absolutely.
So I definitely think he can fit in there. I think he can come in. He can win the job over Stidham and Hoyer, and be a day 1 starter and really mesh with that system. And I really think that Belichick has the pieces around him to be able to make him into a viable fantasy option. I'm not saying he's going to come in and be a top 10 option year 1, but I do think that he can get into the Patriots system. He's got enough talent and a tenure around him that he can really make an impact within the next year or 2.
It's funny, if that actually happened, that will be the greatest fleece and heist job of Belichick's career. I mean, people want to talk about the cheating. I would put that draft under investigation if Tua fell to Belichick. Because you move on from Tom and then you get Tua to along that. I mean, that's almost that's the equivalent of getting like the Montana to Young, the Favre to Rodgers. But even with those guys, they sat in the system for a couple of years before they started. To just move on from Brady and go right to Tua. I mean, I'm pretty sure Belichick wants that draft that you're pulling right now.
Man, could you imagine that happening and then a Bucs-Patriots Super Bowl?
Oh, man. Hey, that would be the highest rated Super Bowl in Super Bowl history if that actually were to happen. So let's slide on the running backs. Let's start off with the DeAndre Swift. Where do you have DeAndre Swift going to?
DeAndre, I have him going to a division rival. I have him going to the Chiefs. I do not think Williams is the long-term answer there. I think DeAndre steps in and he provides that extra spark to the Chiefs offense. And I think that he he's a do-it-all back. I know firsthand. I'm a Georgia fan personally as well, so I'm very familiar with Swift going throughout his career. He was always the number one back. He's a receiving back as well. He can do a little bit of everything, and I think that the Chiefs drafting Swift pushes them further to Super Bowl favorites going into next year.
All right. I actually have Swift going to the Bucks with Brady. Now, I know Brady may have some flashbacks, get another Jordan back, but unlike Sony Michel, I think Swift is a lot healthier and does not have any issues with knees or ankles that I'm aware of. But I have him going to the Bucks. The Bucks are in need of a running back. I think they're going to roll out with, RJ3, Ronald Jones III.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're going to roll out with them, and I think they feel comfortable there. But if I was dream picking, I would love to get that rookie that, like you said, could do it all with that master of manipulating the offense of Brady. Think about how many goal line touchdowns he would get just alone. It will be LeGarrette Blount status, like 14, 15 touchdowns, even if he maybe rushed the whole season for 800 yards, maybe catches 300 yards in passing. But he can end up with 12 touchdowns in that system just because getting to the goal line and Brady switching the play to a quick handoff to him right there. I mean, again, we at one point were drafting LeGarrette Blount only for the upside that if you pick the right games, he can get a 2-3 touchdown game for you out of nowhere. So I feel like Swift going to the Bucks would be a smooth move if that could happen, and then that I would draft Swift at that point as my maybe second or third back in the hope that he gets the job and then gets a lot of those sneaky touchdowns.
Oh, I would love to have that on my team. I'd love to have that problem of trying to pick the right game and just have him go off.
Right. All right. So who's the next running back you have on your board you want to talk about?
Next, I actually had J.K. Dobbins.
All right.
2 picks later. I have him going to the Dolphins. The Dolphins are kind of rough at running back as well. They're kind of a running back needy team. I don't think anybody on that roster is really going to make any kind of impact. And Dobbins was another one of those backs that could really make an impact both on the ground game and the air game going in. Adds a piece around Herbert so that he can have for a dump off. Would still have Devontae Parker. And I think that offense would automatically be to the point to where it would be a very scary offense. And I do think it's a realistic spot for Dobbins to go, given some of the mock drafts that I've done personally and the mock drafts that I've seen and read on. I think Dobbins could go in, and I don't think there would be any competition for him in that backfield.
It's a bunch of jacks, just another guys in that backfield. I mean, yeah, you're right. If you put a Herbert, a Dobbins, they got Mike Galicci, the tight end from Penn State. Athletic tight end from Penn State. Preston Williams, Devontae Parker. Like you're looking at. You only thing that would stop that is the lack of development for Herbert, because at that point, everything around you, skill position wise, is just ridiculous. I have Dobbins actually going to the Chiefs, which you just mentioned. Kind of the same reasons why you had Swift going there. I can see Andy Reid foaming at the mouth when you get a guy like J.K. Dobbins. Like you saw what he did with Urban Meyer and all that. I mean, you saw the last year. I mean, that last year's offense pretty much was still Meyer's offense. You saw what he did with that. You saw what he did with a quarterback. Yeah, Justin Fields, Patrick Mahomes is an upgrade from there with the creativity of Andy Reid. And I don't want people to think about how the Chiefs worked with Damian Williams. I want them to think about how the Chiefs worked when they had Kareem Hunt. They all those plays in the playbook that they probably couldn't run with those other guys, they get right back in the playbook now if you put Dobbins there. So just a personal question, do you have, in your personal rankings, do you have Swift or Dobbins higher as a running back?
I think that you could make an argument for 3 different running backs to be a top running back in this year's class. I do think Dobbins is going to ultimately be the top back in this class. I think Dobbins is going to make a case for Rookie of the Year. I think Swift has too many he's got some concerns coming into the draft. He's got a shoulder issue that he's dealing with and things like that. Personally, Dobbins 1A, Swift 1B.
So the third running back we had both on our board is Jonathon Taylor. Where do you have Jonathon Taylor going to?
I have him going to the Bucks.
Okay.
Really a lot of the same reasons you were talking about earlier. With Taylor, I do think that he feels a need for the Bucks, but I think he goes a lot later into the second round, a little bit down to pick 45. He's going to give Brady that real number one option that he almost really hasn't had for the past few years with New England. It's always been backfield by committee, which I think could still happen with the Bucks with Ronald Jones and Jonathon Taylor. But I really think Taylor is going to be, like I said, arguably definitely one of the top three backs in the class. So I think Taylor to the Bucks is going to add that piece that we haven't seen from the Bucks since Doug Martin, really.
Well, it's funny because I think Brady's last maybe bell cow running back might have been Lawrence Maroney. His last probably really successful bell cow guy might have been Corey Dillon. And I'm going to go with Jonathon Taylor going to the Dolphins. Like I mentioned before, the Dolphins had nothing but a bunch of Jags there, just another guy. I couldn't name half of them, and there's no reason to name half of them because they all had a chance to really take the role and make it their own and did nothing. Regardless if you think they're a bad team or not, it's still they did nothing. I mean, Kalen Barrage or whatever his name was, I watched a clip of him ducking under a pass that was being passed to him because he didn't want to fuck with that job. So I went with Jonathon Taylor, but I do like your answer with the Bucks because even I can see Taylor being in that third down back role with Brady, which we know we've seen so much success. I mean, you've had guys that were draftable and like Stephen Ridley and all that for years that were draftable in that role. Danny Woodhead for a couple of years. I think if Taylor goes to the Dolphins, I could see him locking down that starting role in that position, and even with Fitzmagic, making it work from there. So let's spin over to receivers. What's the first receiver you want to talk about?
I think the first receiver that's going to come off the board is going to be Ruggs.
Okay.
I think Oakland has a need for a receiver, but they've got a need for that speedster kind of guy. Ruggs really fits that mold in my mind. We all know the snafu that happened after with Antonio Brown last year,
right.
Trying to play opposite Tyrell Williams. And I think that adding that weapon for Mariota and Carr is really going to kind of give almost Tyreek Hill kind of vibes. Not quite as fast as Tyreek, I don't think, but Ruggs is going to be a absolute day one starter in my mind.
All right.
I can see him going for, I mean, realistically, 900, 950, and 7 or 8 touchdowns year one. I really see Ruggs as that kind of guy, and I think he has established a name for himself in Alabama, and I think the Raiders moving to Vegas are really going to need to have that flashy player to show the new fan base, and really even the old fan base that's sticking with them, that they mean business. As a Chargers fan, I don't want to see it, but I might have a few shares of Ruggs on a few different rosters.
All right. I have Ruggs going to the Jets. I think you give him Darnold. Him with Darnold gives him a legit number one there. He's a speedster. The biggest concern I have is the concern that every Jets fan probably has right now is Adam Gase will find a way to fuck it up. So, I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. Like, I did like the move to get Adam Gase when it came to working with Darnold. I feel like he is a good quarterback coach. But as a good coach, he's trash. And he's living off a Peyton Manning endorsement for how many years ago when he was the offensive coordinator for the Broncos? Like that's what Gase has lived off of. He was a train wreck in the Dolphins. I got Ruggs going to the Jets. I think in that system with Darnold, they can finally get this chemistry thing going, and I can see a lot of throws just being targeted to Ruggs. And we know one thing about Darnold. Darnold don't give a damn about throwing no interceptions. So that's the quarterback you love is a guy that gets a receiver. The quarterback that's going to force the ball to your guy no matter what. Like, we love it. We love Jameis for his 30 interceptions, but he gave you 33 touchdowns on top of that. So my next one I would have is CeeDee Lamb. I have him going to the Raiders because I think they need a number one receiver badly. I struggle between him and Jeudy, Jerry Jeudy, but I felt like Lamb is the kind of guy, because he's a bigger body guy, that if you're going to get a legit number one, you got Terrell Williams, who we can hopefully still has a little bit of speed left in the tank. You can put Lamb right in that system, and I think he can flourish. Also, I think with Gruden, just like how you wanted Ruggs going there to the Raiders, I think with Gruden, he's good at getting receivers to be proper route runners, which I think a little bit of Lamb's weaknesses is he's not a great route runner. So I can see them going there to to Las Vegas and him balling out, because there ain't nobody else out there except for Waller, and we know Williams has a short shelf life.
Oh yeah.
Where you got Lamb going?
I actually have Lamb going to the Niners. I think that Lamb coming in there could bolster the Niners to a top 3 passing offense in the league next year.
Wow.
You've got Kittle, you've got Samuel, you've got the backs, and then you throw in CeeDee Lamb, throw in that big body, and I think that the Niners are going to be a potent, absolutely potent offense next year.
No concern about Lamb's lack of route running, because I think the reason why I have the next guy going to the Niners is because of the route running. You wouldn't have any concern with that?
Yeah, there's concern. There's obviously always going to be concern. I mean, there was a concern with DK Metcalf with his route running coming out of last year as well.
Right.
Metcalf did okay for himself last year.
Yeah, but Russell Wilson, Jimmy Garoppolo is not Russell Wilson. If he was, I would have another Super Bowl sitting up here if Jimmy Garoppolo was Russell Wilson.
There's definitely concerns, but I think Shanahan's got the right kind of tools in place to be able to kind of help him along in the process. I don't think it's going to automatically be one of those things where he's just sharp cuts in and out of routes, but I definitely think that Lamb is going to be able to progress throughout his rookie year and really make a formidable passing offense with the Niners.
Okay, and so I think the next guy we both have then is Jerry Jeudy. Where do you have Jerry Jeudy going then?
Another AFC West foe. I've got him going to the Broncos.
Okay.
Judy's another kind of speed guy, and I think Drew Lock's arm, again, watched him in the SEC. He's got an absolute cannon of an arm. I remember comparing him. I called him Matthew Stafford 2.0 a couple of years ago when he was coming out of the draft, and I pushing the ball down the field, matching him up with Cortland Sutton. Is going to be a really scary thing for defenders to try to cover. I think Jeudy is going to be again one of those guys that really can make an impact day one coming out of again the SEC, and I think that he is really going to be able to provide huge fantasy impact, because I think he could be either the one or the two starting in there coming into day one.
Well, I looked at Jeudy and I said Amari Cooper light. And the reason why I have Jeudy going to the 49ers is that Kyle Shanahan loves route runners. It's the reason why we made that trade for Emmanuel Sanders. One, because we could afford that trade, but also Emmanuel Sanders is a constant professional and probably one of the better route runners in the league and run blockers as well. I think that's where it's going to be a little issue with Jerry Jeudy, where I think your Lamb pick makes a little more sense, because Lamb is a better run blocker than I think Jeudy is at this time. But Jeudy about to get a little stronger and be able to better run. But I know as far as just running crisp, routes, separation, et cetera, I think it's no one better in the draft than Jeudy in that. And I think the best friend to a quarterback like Garoppolo that's mostly throwing to spots and being dictated where to go with the ball is a guy that can get to that spot because he's running the right route for the right situation. It's the reason why him and Samuels hit it off so quickly, because it was more about the fact that Samuels' route running was so crisp, Garoppolo coming from that Brady system. He knows throw it to a spot, and Sanders was there. So you get, I think you get Jerry Jeudy in that kind of system. I think you can get sparks to fly as well, but I almost could say, I mean, any three of those receivers go to that system, because Shanahan schemes so many receivers wide the heck open. You'll probably have some success there.
Oh yeah. Sure. Oh, yeah. It's hard not to with Shanahan as your coordinator or your head coach. Good.
Right. Absolutely. So who do you have next on your board as for receiver?
Next is kind of a little bit more of a reach, but I have Jalen Raegor going there at 42. I think that adding another receiver, yet another weapon for that Jags offense, really kind of opens things up with I'll say iffy quarterback situation. I think Minshew definitely needs the help. He's not necessarily one of the better starters in the league.
Right.
I think he's really going to need the help, and I think the Jags are definitely going to try to get that for him. Plus, adding a weapon there, I don't know if you saw a little earlier today, the Jags are actually opening up to trading for net this offseason.
Right.
So that was something that I saw a little earlier, and it kind of strengthened that. It's not a running back, no, but I do think that it's just going to add another weapon that's really going to help Minshew out as he continues to grow in that offense.
I mean, I think we both agree on that one. So I'm not going to kind of keep beating this dead horse. I think again, and I even looked at it too, Jalen, in the sense of, I know that some of the Jags players have been pushing for them to pick up Cam. So another guy, another big-bodied, strong, fast, quick receiver that Cam can get the ball to, because we know Cam does have some accuracy issues. So again, I think the Jags are right on. I think the next one we both might have had was who's your next receiver you have on your list?
Next one I had was T. Higgins going a couple of days later. Unfortunately, Rivers has got to find somebody else to throw to. Yes, he's got T.Y. T.Y. is not getting any younger, and he's smaller. T is going to give him more of a big body to throw to. T was all about going up and getting the ball there at Clemson, and I loved watching T play throughout his college career. I think adding another weapon for old man Rivers
right.
could bolster him and really maybe even push into the playoffs a solid amount. It definitely hard pill to swallow watching him throw to another receiver other than Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and all that, Vincent Jackson back in the day.
Right.
I think T. Higgins really kind of gives him that big body that he had in Mike Williams with the Chargers that can really go up and get the ball and help him to
No, I could definitely see that. I mean, like you said, I'm glad you brought up the name of Vincent Jackson, because when you said it, when you put T. Higgins and I saw you had him going there, that's the first thing I thought about. I was, this is just get Phillip Rivers this new Vincent Jackson. And I mean, and you're a Chargers fan, you know how awesome Vincent Jackson was. He just had a couple of injury issues a lot of times, especially near the end of his career. But Vincent Jackson, when he played, you were guaranteed a G and probably 8 to 10 touchdowns. But I have T. Higgins going to actually the Houston Texans. And everybody's like, they just made the trade for Cooks. Like, why would you do it? But unless Bill O'Brien was a fan of the Three Amigos back in Denver or a fan of the Smurfs TV show, he got nothing but small, speedy receivers, Cooks, Fuller, Steels. You're going to need somebody eventually that's going to be able to get up there and get the rock. Like, I mean, you're going to need somebody that's going to. So I looked at T. Higgins as a good guy. You can get him in there. He's your big body guy out there. Maybe if you got to run a slant or something for a first down. And I think also, I mean, my rule of thumb is if you get an A+ at quarterback, which I think Deshaun Watson is, you almost could fill in the receiver at that point. But you still need to give him something more than a normal there. And I think Higgins would be a great change of pace for Watson in that offense, where I think he can be the biggest. I think most of his production will come from catching touchdowns. I don't think he'll be a huge yardage guy. I think it'll be a lot of those slants near the end zone, kind of plays like that. I can see him ending up with 8 or 9 touchdowns just on the strength of being able to do that.
Oh, yeah. I think you might be giving O'Brien a little bit too much credit there after the offseason he's had.
Hey, you're right. You know what? Let me just write that off. T. Higgins, never mind. That sounds too much like smart. So let's take a dumbass decision. Let's say Houston Texans dumbass decision. He'll pick Tua or something like that. Let's give him the dumbest decision we can find and go with Bill O'Brien with that.
I like that, though. I like that to try to go out and replace Hopkins at least a little bit. Obviously, T. Higgins isn't going to come in and be DeAndre Hopkins,
right?
But I like the thought process there. We're trying to at least somewhat replace him with a lot cheaper of a contract.
Absolutely, and I think we both have our last receiver is KJ Hamler, which Penn State guy. So I love him. And for the same reasons. You had above going to, I think you had Lamb going to the Broncos. No, you had Ruggs going to the Broncos, correct?
No, Jeudy.
I have Hamler going to the Broncos before that reason alone. Like the same reason you had for Ruggs, speedy guy, can stretch the field. But the only difference I have is that I have Hamler coming in there to be the number 2. I think Courtland Sutton is a legit fantasy valuable, probably, I want to say 1.5 receiver, because I don't think he's in that category of completely number 1 receiver. But, I mean, if you look at the numbers from last year, I mean, you can make an argument that Sutton is – you can go into a season with 2 strong running backs and Sutton is your number 1 receiver, and I wouldn't be afraid – I would be afraid of your team. So, but going to this fantasy conversation, I can see Hamler going into the Denver Broncos as the number 2 guy, the same thing. Locke he can launch it. And this guy, Hamler, he can go get it. So, and I watched him at Penn State. He got a lot of 50-50 balls. He's a speedster. So I have him going to the Broncos. Where do you have him going?
I have him for a lot of the same reasons you have Ruggs going to the Jets. I have him going to the Jets.
Okay.
I think they absolutely need to replace Robbie Anderson because I think he worked in that system. Again, Adam Gase, I think that's going to be the big wild card there. And you may not like it as a Penn State guy seeing one of your boys go to that Adam Gase offense, but I think they need to replace Robbie Anderson, and I think he absolutely fits that bill. He can take the top off of a defense. So watching some of what he's done, I mean, I've had my jaw on the floor watching a little bit of it. I mean, this guy is so fast, and it's so fun to watch him just run a 9 route
right
down the field. I think that he is absolutely what they're looking for in a replacement for Robbie Anderson.
And I mean, let's be real. And I know Penn State lately, because I feel like with James Franklin, it's not much offensive creativity there. I mean, I watched. I mean, I know I remember the 4th and 1 with Saquon Barkley in the backfield, and you gave like a read option and like it. Anyway, I'm having flashbacks. And Chris Godwin came out of Penn State. Hamler came out of Penn State. Mike Galici, we talked about, that's out in Miami, came from Penn State. The one big thing I can say about Penn State receivers as of late, because of lack of creativity, I feel like in the offense, is they all go after and get 50-50 balls. Like for some reason, that is our offensive go-to. When all else fails, just throw the rock up there to our number 1 guy and hope he comes down with it. And so I think that is a huge benefit when you get to the league, where a lot of those plays, those back shoulder passes become more predominant, and a lot of those deep routes, a lot of quarterbacks, we would say, unless you got Patrick Mahomes, they're probably going to underthrow you a little bit. So you got to come back and go get that rock. So I will give Penn State receivers that were really good. They're really good at getting that done. Now, you have any closing comments? Anything you want to talk about? Any person or player that you thought about that we probably didn't speak about, you wanted to get out, or just some thoughts?
Man, really, I'm just excited about the draft. I do think that Burrow is going to go number 1. I mean, I know you mentioned the small hands a little earlier, but just seeing what he did at LSU and leading them, I think it's been – I can't even remember the last time. It may have been recently when they beat Bama, but just seeing what he did this past year and just everything he's been able to do, I do think Burrow is going to come in and absolutely make a huge impact in this league.
I think he's a B+ quarterback, or a B. I could see at the height of his career upside being Tony Romo, Matt Ryan, that range. And I know people are going to hate me because I said Romo was a good quarterback, guys. Shut the fuck up. Like, Romo, that Dallas teams were trash for a lot of years, and Romo played very well. Everybody, he's doing interceptions in the clutch. So the hell what? Like, Romo, look at those numbers. If people go look at Romo's numbers, your eyes may fall out. Most people want their quarterback to have the numbers that Romo had, but I can see him high side being Romo, Matt Ryan-esque. Low side, I can see, hate to put this name out here, but I can see a Case Keenum on the low end. Well, my nice little fantasy football champion shirt is from $6shirts.com. They're not a sponsor, but I do like the shirts they have on. They have some really funny stuff out there as well on their shirts. I would say some people definitely check them out. Cody, anybody you want to shout out, say what's up to, or?
Not off the top of my head.
Man, he got a wife, ladies and gentlemen. See how he do? You see how he does his wife? she get ready for bed, and he might want to shout her out.
We're actually sitting. Got a baby girl due in August, and I'm actually sitting in her nursery right now. So Yeah, I'll go ahead and throw a shout out there to my wife and unborn daughter.
All right. Hey, come on, you got a name yet?
Yeah, actually, Carter.
Hey, welcome to the Carter gang. Everybody knows my youngest daughter's name
I
is
had
Carter.
actually forgotten your daughter's name was Carter before we started talking about names.
That's fine. Welcome to the Carter game. I mean, they're a handful. I don't know if it's the name or the personalities, but they're a handful. So, but thank you guys for listening to Watching 2 Fantasy Football Dynasty. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, comment. Please tell us how stupid we are and how we don't know anything about fantasy football, because you may be right. If you subscribe, you can keep getting this nonsense that we're talking about coming for you and more. And if you share it, you can share this nonsense with other people too. So other than that, we are out of here.